I'm here today to announce a task force that will have an impact for every Georgia voter. I come before you at a time filled with turmoil and upheaval, a time of hope and strength. A better future may loom just over the horizon, but a difficult path lays ahead. We need to double our efforts to strengthen the bedrock institution of our country, even as the disruption to our daily lives threatens to weaken them. As Secretary of State, I was elected to protect one of those institutions in particular, the right to vote. When I took office in January 2019, my focus was on updating Georgia's outdated voting system. We worked day and night with the legislature, local election officials, and election experts to implement a new system that would take us into the future. Georgia voters around the state praised the new, secure, reliable, and verifiable paper ballot system. In recent weeks, though, not only Georgia, but the United States and the world has changed dramatically. A new era has arrived, requiring extra care for the values we hold dear. As Secretary, preserving the integrity of the vote is my first and primary goal. It is the reason I was elected and my main responsibility to the people of Georgia who elected me. In these times, with the threat of COVID-19, we must prioritize the health and safety of Georgians. That is why our team took the unprecedented step to mail every active voter an absentee ballot application. Many of you have already received a Secure the Vote absentee ballot application in the mail this past week. All you need to do is fill it out, place a stamp, and mail it back in. If you don't have a stamp, we have provided an email address for you to send your application directly to your local elections office. From there, your county's election office will process the applications like they always have, including signature match verification, and then issue a ballot. You can then vote from the safest place possible, your own home. Another important thing that is very vitally important is accurate voter rolls. Some Georgians receive applications for people who might have lived there years ago. I urge you not to throw those away, but to circle the address, write "no longer at this address," and return it to the post office by placing it in your mailbox. What that does, it allows us to keep our voter rolls the cleanest in the nation. Today, we are taking an additional step for ballot security. Accordingly, I am announcing the creation of the Absentee Ballot Task Force. The Absentee Ballot Fraud Task Force is created to ensure that even as the way we vote may fluctuate, the power of that vote does not. The task force will be responsible for upholding the integrity of the vote in Georgia. Whether at the ballot box or the mailbox, America is founded on the principle that every citizen gets one vote. We all have equal power to choose our leaders. One person, one vote. I have selected some of the state's premier law enforcement experts to fill out this team. Elections experts, district attorneys, and solicitors generals who will be on the front lines assuring the people of Georgia that their right to vote and their right to be counted equally is secure. This task force will focus on establishing the framework of detection of fraud and work with the Secretary of State post-certified investigators to investigate every signature mismatch that remains uncured, interview voters with unaccounted for multiple votes from the same address, and construct the rules around investigating non-residential addresses being used as registration addresses. I will also ask the task force to draft a law making it a crime to vote in a federal election in Georgia and another state at the same time. Those who wish to take advantage of us in these troubling times and undermine the strength of democracy in Georgia should be forewarned. Actions that delegitimize the integrity of the vote in Georgia will not be tolerated. In these turbulent times, we must rededicate ourselves to shoring up these institutions that serve as the foundation of our democracy. We must devote our energy, our focus, and our resources. We must to ensure the bedrock principles of this great American experiment of we the people does not slip. While we face a unique challenge as a community, a state, and a nation, no one should underestimate our ability to overcome it. I believe in the people of Georgia. I believe in their strength, their courage, and their perseverance. I know that together we will come back stronger than before. Thank you. Do we have any questions?
Mr. Secretary, are you hearing from counties about their difficulties with poll workers and getting them ready to man in-person precincts?
Yes, we are. We discuss and talk with our county election officials on a daily basis. So we're watching and monitoring the situation on the ground very closely.
And you talk about this fraud task force. Is there much fraud in elections in Georgia? Why is this necessary?
We're talking about the absentee ballot process. People getting addresses at a P.O. box, which is not a residential address like a UPS box, or people in a residential home. They get their two registrations for their husband and wife, and yet the two other that they receive, those people haven't lived there for years. And it's really making sure that it's safe, secure, and also that we don't have situations. So we really want to make sure that we have the most robust and appropriate roles to ensure that everyone's vote counts once and it's accurate, and that troublemakers, can't do things that don't abide by that principle of one person, one vote. Yes, sir.
How many people will be involved in doing this?
Well, we have our post-certified investigators already in the Secretary of State's office, and we also are reaching out for the absentee ballot fraud task force, key folks, and we're building out that team, and we'll have an announcement in the near future of who that will be. They'll be well-respected people. You understand that they have the capability and the experience to make the appropriate decisions.
Mr. Secretary, question about, you mentioned residential locations for people to receive their ballot applications and their ballots. What about the homeless population that may not have a residential address?
Right. I think we've always had an appropriate procedure for that. But if someone is getting something coming to a UPS box drop, they have to pay for that on their own nickel. And when that happens, it really calls to question, it makes you wonder what was going on with that. And so those are the type of things. But no, we understand that everyone needs to have the right to vote, and we never want to increase undue burdens on people for that right to vote. Thank you for the question.
There have been several calls for the primary to get moved, and we've even seen guidance from, high-ranking elected officials. Is there still any consideration to move the May 19th primary?
At the present time, we don't have the lawful authority to move the election because of the expiration of the emergency declaration by the governor. And so if that came into place, looking at the situation on the ground, then we'll be able to make a determination at that time. And so we're monitoring both situations very closely, and we're very mindful of what is happening throughout Georgia right now and the ability to have in-person voting. Because obviously we're taking this unprecedented step with the absentee ballot situation and that outreach to voters. But we know that typically over 95% of all Georgian voters like to vote in person.
You talk about this absentee fraud task force. Is the implication that absentee voting is less secure than our regular voting system for in-person voting?
Most studies have always shown that in-person voting, particularly with photo ID, is very secure, and it's the one concern that all national election experts have always identified as one area of potential weakness. And so that's why we're focusing on that, particularly because we have this unprecedented situation where we are mailing out absentee ballot applications to active voters.
What's being done to help counties recruit poll workers in this time where many people may fear going and helping out at the polls?
There's been an awful lot of outreach to the age groups that aren't identified as at the highest risk group for COVID-19. Obviously, what's been defined in the past is people over the age of 50 and underlying health conditions, but we're also seeing people in their 30s get struck by COVID-19. So we understand that there are health challenges, but the counties are reaching out. We're doing recruitment on that. Everyone, we understand the situation, and that's why we want to make sure that we can manage whatever the date we end up with, that we can have poll workers there so we can handle the voters when they do show up.
One more question.
For the upcoming primary, are you considering using paper ballots instead of touchscreens to ensure the safety of poll workers and voters?
No, we can clean off the touchscreen technologies, and we believe that the touchscreen technology is a very secure way of voting, and voters love, the touchscreen technology. It's what they've used for 18 years, and so why change a good thing? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming out today. God bless y'all.